I'm Charlotte McGinnis, and as always, I thank you for taking the time to tune in and join me. And I'm very excited on Wednesdays that I've restarted the Heart to Heart Soulful Conversations. Last week, I had an awesome guest, Jerry Mannion. We had a great conversation. Jerry is a very good friend of ours, right, Julie?
Yes.
And we've been very good friends for a long time, met through the Namaste Center, and I restarted this just this year because I took last year off to do some renovations around the house, but really excited to be back in the swing of it. And thank you all for joining us. So Julie, I have actually known longer than anyone up here, I think, that I know. Over 30 years. We met in Florida, and she had a wonderful therapy practice, family therapy, specializing in addictions, and had a thriving practice. And we met through the Palm Beach Center for Living, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And she participated there. And then on top of that, she managed to have her office in the same building where we were located. So I think we actually met before that. I think. I can't remember. But either way, we've been friends a long time. And now you're living up here. We moved up here 17 years ago, Ellen and I, and you moved up here. How many?
8.
It's hard to believe.
It is.
That is hard to believe. Wow. So welcome to Heart, and thanks for tuning in and taking the time to join us. So how are you, Julie?
You know, this is so interesting because Charlotte's kind of been with me through my life. Actually the spiritual part of my life, putting life together for many years. And I met Charlotte at a time I had been a Catholic all my life. And my husband and I at the time were looking for a new church, new thought, new church. Didn't know what that was. We'd been going to many different churches and nothing felt right at the time. We had 3 children, which we do, 3. And I think actually it was through Ellen. I actually think I wandered into her bookstore and kind of like got reunited with her and met Charlotte. And at the time was trying to figure life out, how it fit what I was doing, challenges just in conversation with people and my belief in the world. I was doing a lot of lecturing in school systems, mental health associations, addiction treatments, all kinds of places. But in my own life, I was trying to find a home, a spiritual home. And when I met Charlotte, I learned about the Course in Miracles. Somehow I just we were on the same floor, and I was walking around one day and I said, wow, what is that place? And what goes on in there? And then beautifully, and it put so many pieces to my life together, because it was the beginning of knowing that there was another kind of consciousness that I was being drawn to, which was people really listening to people and showing love even where there were pain and disagreements or whatever it was possible. And the speakers, Wayne Dyer, Greg Braden, there were so many at that time that I got exposed to, and the teachings. And Charlotte kind of helped me, because the Center for Living to me was a home. When you walked in there, people hugged, they sat down and listened to talks that pushed our buttons to try to learn more about and the people. But I think when I think back of the Center for Living, what I think about is I walked in that door and knew I was in a safe place. Yeah. And that I was going to be challenged to learn new things and places to experiment in my own life, to find my centeredness with whatever the God of my understanding was. Let's put it that, because I worked heavily in the addiction field, and God was spoken about. It was a way that, if you wanted to heal and you wanted to grow, then you needed to look at a spiritual relationship or connection, not to yourself, but something more powerful that would help you get the tools of sobriety. And it doesn't matter whether it's female, male, mother, spirit, angels. I'm very close to angels. It didn't matter, but you had to have something higher than yourself.
Exactly. Well, and we did at that time have several, we had, I think, 30 to 40 classes a week going on. And we had several 12-step groups at the Palm Beach Center for Living. And a lot of those people naturally moved into A Course in Miracles. And there's also, for anyone in recovery or interested in 12 steps, there's the side-by-side little pamphlet. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Side by Side. And it's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and the compatible Course in Miracles lesson. So it's a great little resource. So just something for y'all to think of. And the beauty of this, Julie, I don't know if you're noticing, I'm looking up here. Arlene was on. She's on. So hi, Arlene. She was a part of our center big time. I met Arlene through the Palm Beach Center for Living. So then she moved up here and now she's in Vermont. But Arlene was a big part of it. I want to get her on one of these days. But now we have Marie, your precious little Marie, who helped you move. I met her last year. And she's actually, this is great. She is a what would you call her? She's an airline hostess. I won't say stewardess. I don't think they call them attendant, flight attendant.
Not only that,
Yeah.
she is now going to become a pilot.
Marie?
Absolutely. And she and her daughter will be one of the first mother-daughter teams
Oh my
because her
gosh.
daughter's already a pilot.
Oh,
So at 21 years of age.
that's why I've been
So Marie is
noticing that.
amazing to follow her path.
Oh, well, she's definitely a light, and she is actually up in the air
Yes.
watching us right now. So where are you flying over, Marie? I'd be curious. Are you over the Pacific or Atlantic? Or
Going to California.
Oh, okay, there you go. So, and there's Rita. Rita's going to be an upcoming guest. She's another fellow ADL minister, wonderful lady. Just so many blessings, that come through a spiritual path, aren't there, Julie?
Oh my goodness.
And
beautiful people.
yeah. And I think that, I've made so many wonderful friends through the two centers, the Palm Beach Center for Living and then the Namaste Center, and then through the Alliance of Divine Love Ministry, and just great friends. And fortunately, my good friends from home are also very tapped in and tuned into their spiritual path. So they're sort of tagging along on and joining me through these, and it's great. I mean, I can't imagine life without it. And I think more now than ever, we need this. I don't know how people are functioning in the world today without it. What say you on that?
Well, I guess that really gets to, it's funny how I didn't know what Charlotte was going to ask today, but being with Charlotte and having spoken with her before and good friends with her, knowing what she's about in this world. I've really been putting together, because I've had a year of physical challenges, even facing really life and death twice, probably in the last 6 months. And so there was a question in my mind is, who was I going to be? Was I really going to be able to get my strength and empowerment back? And actually, Charlotte and Ellen both. There was a time I couldn't even talk, do anything. I just had to sit or I would be choking. And they just sat with me and made sure all of my needs at that time as I was going through it. So, I learned a powerful lesson that I think and you spoke about Marie, the people that have been there for me in my life, my children, my clients, everything, is that in those times, there was questions there, about what the world would be like if I made a choice still to stay with it. But I told Charlotte today, she asked me when I came in the door, how are you feeling? I said, you know what? I could hardly answer because I'm feeling so strong. And not just physically, but physically, mentally, spiritually. And I think it took that knock or that challenge to be able to really, who am I now? I think I turned, well, I didn't think I turned 80 last year.
Yes.
And
you
I
were
thought,
there.
and I would have never thought, one, I'd still be working. And number two, that I'd still want to actually, what brought me through and continues to bring me through every day through life's challenges and miracles is passing on skills and tools to others to survive anything and to thrive.
Right.
That's what I'll say.
Well, Julie, I will attest, Ellen and I were with you for both those situations. And the one time we were both times we were worried, but we were very worried. And I did want to bring this in because you not only bounced back, you came back with a vengeance. I mean, you're stronger than ever. So how did you do that? I mean, I would have not been surprised too much, sadly, if the outcome would have been different at that time. And here you come back, and there you are. Here you are. Everyone sees it right here now.
Well, to say to that, I feel like, one, I'm stronger than ever. And I have goals that are probably bigger than I've ever had. But coming from being able to be in my home and be centered and enjoy life too at this time. It's funny you say that, because I feel very strong physically, mentally, spiritually, the whole thing. But I sat today and put this together, and you asked me, well, really, how are you? So who I am today is, I'm a warrior. I see you as a warrior. I see probably most of the women on the planet today, or all of the women, the little ones, the big ones, children, they were all warriors, and so are the men. But I think we've always seen the men as a warrior. Now I think we women are beginning to see, so are we. We have this strong spirit.
Right.
I'm a woman of spirit. I exist today because I've been and have dealt with a lot of challenges, a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, and miracles. That I'm in really a world that I feel that is out of balance, but that it's a world also of sacred balance. The way that we're going to get through it is through the spiritual. It's through connections.
Right.
It's through times like this, sharing our stories and our personal strengths.
Exactly.
And that's how that's how any counseling, therapy, whatever, it's sharing our stories.
There you go.
And growing together. So
what do they say in 12 steps? Share your experience, strength, and hope, right?
Bottom line.
And someone was trying to call in. I don't know who that was, but so keep going.
So I said, I balance with one world in the physical, and that's the world of material substance, just like everyone else. But now I'm recognizing, especially since those illnesses and challenges, I also have a foot in the dimensions of spirit and sacred life. And I see every day I need to do something to balance the two, the physical world, the material world, with my spiritual, my sacred world, because there's challenges still coming every day with my family, my friends, my clients, everywhere. And my course is set by my ally, which is the winds of time. I'm recognizing now that I have been in many winds of times, and that on the physical earth, time, we see time differently. I think when we're outside the physical world. Mother Earth is what I turned to when I was sick. I sat outside, I listened, I let people read to me, because I couldn't really open a book, and they were just reading simple passages of hope and strength. And that with that, that Mother Earth, looking out my door, looking out here, right here in your room right now in the mountains, just a tree, even though it's winter, it has such depth of strength. That's something I've learned up here in the mountains. You can see fall and you can see spring and everything comes out new. But now there's that quiet time of looking out and seeing even the strength in the cold and darkness and
absolutely
earlier darkness and whatever. It's interesting.
I love four seasons, by the way. You came from Florida. I lived there for many years. I miss the change of seasons a lot. So I'm grateful to be back up here. I think that they go with the cycle of our life. And, to have that beautiful sunshine 365 in Florida is a wonderful thing, but there's a lot of healing, I think, in the winter.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And, I can relate to that because I didn't see snow and I didn't see a fall until I was in my 20s. And I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
And I saw how my thoughts changed. I recognized beauty in a different form, because living in Florida with it being flowers all year and everything else, I do understand now how easily it is when you don't have the seasons and you have one thing all year around, that people get depressed sometimes because they don't have that quiet time where we do, where, you know, you run to your car like
Yeah.
today in the 12s and 20s and whatever, you know, you bundle up and you run, you're not really looking at, you just want to get warm,
Mhm.
you know, and then you come back in your house and you reflect out into something that's so beautiful, you know, but in Florida, they don't have that quiet. I didn't. And I noticed with a lot of my friends and clients, they didn't have that downtime of quiet because you want to get back out in your car and go or whatever. And those times of quiet, I really found when I came up here, and
Yeah.
I had the change in seasons.
Well, you're one of
Yes.
the few people that I know that actually was born in Florida and grew up there. And you had I don't mean to take you away from this,
No,
but
not at all.
but your childhood was very interesting. Your father was a very interesting man. And tell us a little bit about the way you grew up and your
Well,
environment.
actually, it started as I was born in Charlotte,
Oh, I did not
but
know
I'm a
that.
war baby.
Mhm.
And so my dad was we came here for him to get ready to go to England and France. It was World War II. And I was born, and I can remember distinctly there was a ration on, I didn't know this, but my mother, a ration on sugar, a ration on gasoline, all kinds of things. And so when I was born, my mother almost died. My dad was shipped off overseas. I didn't even see my dad till I was 2.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't know him at all until 2 years of age. And I can remember my mother later saying, I didn't know whether you were going to hug him or see him, or you were going to be scared to death of him.
Yeah.
And she said, I just ran to him. It's interesting story, but I lived there, and I did live with a father that was a pretty famous attorney, championing for people. Same thing that I find that I do in life. He did it through trying to make the world safe in terms of criminals and acts of violence and things like that. So, you know, I grew up to see a very strong family, but a family that also grew up in a time where you didn't talk about things and you didn't show physical love. You know, you may say, I love you, but you rarely would see someone hugging and sitting down with family and just playing with them and connecting. And I think that's what, because I don't remember that and lived in a different time, it's what's helped me see today how important it is for families to learn how to connect through everything, challenges, struggles, miracles, fun times, whatever. So it led to my future, you know, to say the least. And then I had examples of my mother was strong but quiet. My mother, I can remember, which is something I had never done or couldn't do. It's not been my thing. I've been more out there. And she would go to nursing homes and just hold hands with people that were mentally not there, people who were in comas and things. And she would just sit and hold their hands and pray. My mother had a different way, but now I understand what a gift she had without speaking, of just being present. So I learned many things in my family, you know, out of uncomfortable things and that I see now are possible, you know, that with the light comes the dark, and every day we have opportunities to grow.
Right, exactly. Well, and some of your stories, we don't have to go into those, but yes, you did have a very interesting childhood. And here you are, you took the best of both your parents, the compassion of your mom and the fierceness of your dad, and here you are. And you know, I want to talk to you a little bit about, you know, these past few years have been some of the most turbulent years that I can remember in my lifetime. People are just between people being sick. I just read today, for example, that there's a huge number of cancers in younger people coming up now. So there's these weird sicknesses. The economy is interesting. You know, we went through COVID and, you know, still trying to figure things out after that. And now we've got this election. We were talking about that coming up, and you'd made a good point. You want to mention that about the 60 countries?
60, I learned recently that 60 countries, this is the first ever in 2024, that there are going to be 60 elections in countries where they're going to be voting on new presidents. the importance of that, as I was saying to Charlotte, what I see is, and why my career has become what it is the one thing I see is that in society, we are learning, and there are many things we are learning because of the challenges from our past, our childhoods, our families, everything, schools, how we were treated, what we were learning, that today, the one thing we haven't been able to do in this right now, as I'm witnessing the world, is to really sit down and be able not only to negotiate, but to negotiate with compassion, so that rather than we can only see our view and then the other one tries to bring forth their view, we've lost that power or that beginnings of learning how to work together politically in our homes and everywhere else. And my belief is it isn't going to change in the outside world. We're not going to change with all these new presidents coming in until that we heal our families in the way that we talk and live, and the way that we deal with love. How do we learn how to love? How do we learn how to do a healthy argument? Come back to some kind of agreement between both of us, a little bit of you, a little bit of me, a little bit of the kids. And so that's my specialty in life right now. And my commitment is to families, couples, individuals, and children, healing the past pains and also learning how to negotiate, to feel, to express them, to feel safe. It's saying anything, and to learn how to work through what the challenges are. That's missing. And I say that because when 2024 turned just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden, I've never seen so many breakdowns in the families that I love and cherish, that I've been working with for a long time or short time. Couples, children, everywhere, schools, political, our governments arguing worse than I've ever seen, the threat of war, missiles, all these kind of things.
All at once.
That could bring up a lot of fear, which are bringing up a lot of fear. And the amazing thing, what I see is possible, is that they can learn new skills. That's the one thing I see we have never been taught.
Relationships.
Real relationship negotiations with compassion, love, acceptance, the ability to share your feelings without being told you're wrong, or no, that's not the way it was, or you can't feel that way. So that is who I am. I have worked in the world. I've raised my children, and now I live a life dedicated to teaching adults and children the tools to communicate trust, because trust is broken everywhere, and it starts in our homes. And it will rebuild in our homes, and the way that we teach our children through our own methods of living, and live in a healthy family environment. And this includes a world sometimes filled with fear, so much fear. I see this as one of the most fear-based times that I've ever lived in 80 years. Anger, joy, happiness, and struggles, so that we can hear each other and learn new tools to heal and express safely. I'm going to come back to that again. The families do not learn growing up, and then we go and we pass it on into the world. So our power in terms of these 60 new presidents is, how are we going to communicate in our homes first? What are we going to teach our children and ourselves by learning how to deal with the ordinary problems that come up from day to day around fear, anger, trust, these kind of things. So this is an important time, and the only way we're going to do it is by bringing peace to ourselves.
Right. It all starts with you and me. And I got to back up here because first of all, your buddy Natalie from Florida, she says, "You rock, Julie." So rock on, Julie. And then we got our good buddy Laura there, and Martha from Jacksonville. So people are from all over here, and you do rock. And it's your point is well taken. And what I truly believe, we're so busy trying to fix and point our fingers at everyone and everything. We do that in our own little pods, and then we do it collectively to the big picture. And really, one thing, we go back to the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles says that we're 100% responsible for the world we see, and how we show up for the world, and how we perceive the world. And so it's so easy to get caught up and this is more spiritual than that, and to judge behavior and to take sides. And I think we can have preferences by all means, but you mentioned about politics, and I remember hearing stories of these old politicians, and your dad was probably included in that mix.
Absolutely.
That they might fight it out in court or on the Senate floor, but at the end of the day, they could go have a nice dinner together, a cocktail, and be civil again. And we've lost that ability to be civil. But it all comes back to us individually and our healing. And since we're all one, we've learned that every time I choose to heal rather than to judge, and I'm lifting the vibe for everybody. And I think we have so much more power than we ever imagined, because that's one of the most powerful things. That is the most powerful thing we can do. And that's what you're teaching. And, at 80 years old, you should be drinking pina coladas on the beach, and you're just,
absolutely.
There you go. And you're just continuing to work. And, and look who's here, your little precious daughter, Natty. She's here. And see, all your fan clubs here, Julie.
I'll say something. You mentioned that Natalie said to me, I think that really woke me up. She came here in June to live. And one of the things being, we have always said we wanted one more time to live together and experience life together, living close to each other. And I finally made the decision once I came here, I can't leave here. So I was hoping to move up north or wherever. And what I recognized when Natalie came here in June, she made a decision to come here. My physical health turned huge. And she's done the last 6 months of taking care of me in a way I can't even describe. But the thing that woke me up is she said, I didn't come here for you to die. I came here for us to have life again and to experience a world together again. And I went, whoa. So that was one of the things. And then the other thing is, and I'll give an example. Just this week or last week, I've worked many more hours than I normally do because so many people have been in crisis with the New Year's and the planet's changing and so many things happening. And I'm going to tell you an example of what I'm saying. I had an upset in a home, and a child, young, around 11, did something that she saw an argument with her family. And her way of dealing with it was to go and to go and start cleaning up the home and organizing and do a lot of things. And which she got yelled at and things that she was acting out and having a tantrum too. And I remember, and I said, there was a big upset. But the way that we handle it, and this is what I see possible, I said to the dad, and I said, well, did you ever think about looking at what she did to try to organize, because there was chaos inside of her? Did you ever think about going and sitting down with her and inviting her and cleaning up some things with her, or just playing with her on the floor, but being in relationship with her and saying, hey, let's sit down. There was an upset. Let's talk about it. I was angry in the moment, maybe for the father, but I'm seeing that you are really giving her a chance to express what it was like for her, and then to help her play or to fix something or clean something up. And of course, parents don't think of that. And the child was only exercising her way of dealing with the chaos in the home. And so I know what happened, and what's happening is he's getting on the floor and beginning to look at, oh my goodness, let me just sit. My thing is, there's a poem I love, and it talks about the way to enter a child's heart is through play. It's not through lecturing. It's not through anything, but you get down on the floor and share examples with them, or you get down on the floor and trying to understand, why did you do that? Why were you so angry? Why did you, and they say, well, and being with them, and miracles can happen.
Sure.
And it heals that acts of things that we do as parents, yelling, screaming, putting all those things. but it rebuilds the trust, and it rebuilds that thing I'm talking about, which is seeing what's going on in the other person. Why would this child be doing this? Instead of, oh, look what this kind of thing. And that's what I believe has to happen in the world, and has to happen with us coming back to our faith and love and trust and sitting down
and play.
Yeah. I believe play is the access. Well, Freud said that. And Einstein said that when he would get trying to figure out a problem in life or something he was trying to create an idea of, he would go, he had a room in his house that was a child's room with toys, the things I used to play with as a child, building sets, and he would go in there and sit and play like a child. And he'd say the idea would come like this. And he'd go out and create this magical, enlightenment for all of us in terms of life. And I remember Edison, when he was doing the light bulb, must have had about over 300 examples of where he tried to do it and he failed. And so he finally got that where he had this access to his creation of an invention or something, he'd go to the beach and sit. And he would just look out, because he lived on the west side of Florida, and he would just go sit, or he would wander around. He had great gardens, and he would just look at the trees and connect. And then his soul could go back in because it was quiet and peaceful, and he could design and create. And that's what I see in the world today.
Well, we got to, stress will tighten us up quicker than anything, and put blocks up and trying to analyze. And I think that, I talk about, you mentioned Einstein, and he said, I want to know the thoughts of God. And those aren't in a book. They're not the knowledge of studies necessarily, but rather going into nature, tuning in, listening, and then we get those downloads for the good stuff, the real stuff. And you mentioned Edison, and you said 300 times for the light bulb. I heard, numbers doesn't really mean anything, but he made a lot of attempts to figure out the light bulb. Thousands, I think. And his answer was is at least I know 10,000 things that don't work in the light bulb.
Exactly.
So, it was just about his being willing to patiently just continue to follow his passion and not give up. I mean, I think that, we have to, my vigilance now is, again, a quote from the Course, be vigilant for God and his kingdom only. And everything else comes from that. And so when we're there and quiet the mind, we get the guidance, we get the phone call we need, a book falls off the shelf that we need, whatever it is we need, we're taken care of and we're supported. And I think so many people feel alone these days, and they feel like that there's, they have to look outside themselves, but we're never alone. I mean, Spirit of God is always within us, whatever you want to call it, Spirit of love. And if we just tune into that, I also feel that we create a vibration that makes us more attractive to what it is exactly we need. I've come to the realization I don't have a clue what my best interests are. So I just say, okay, God, you handle it, because I really don't know. And how do you feel about that? It's just presence and.
I'll give examples.
Yeah,
because that's what I do. I remember when I was working with teachers and corporate, I was doing seminars and lectures for the corporate world, and then also for school systems. And the one thing I would tell the teachers is, when your class is all uptight, these little kids can't sit in their seats, and you're just frustrated, they're frustrated, stop, take 2 minutes, have them stand up beside their desk, have them become like a military, like frozen, like a soldier, and they tighten up like this. And then now have them bend over to the floor and be a rag doll, and let their hands just float. And then ask them to get up, back up again, be the strong soul, tense, and go back down. Doing that 3 or 4 times will give those teachers a minimum of 30 minutes. The kids can go right back down. They go to their class, they study, their heads can go back.
Right.
So I learned by that in the corporate world. I've told many, many teams in corporate, and I've actually lectured to houses of politicians. And I said, when you can't figure something out, and I would love to have this go in our Congresses and Senates and everywhere else, but even in the boardroom, I tell them, make sure that you have bubbles and make sure that you have balls, just regular, those plastic balls you get in, and have them in there. And when you're sitting around a board table, or when in our political organizations, they're arguing, they can't come to something, you take out those balls and just start,
Yeah.
going like this. And then another one starts to hit it, another one starts to hit it. And before you know it, they're laughing
Yes.
and they're sitting down and they come together. The same way in the boardroom, if you start blowing bubbles, what happens? If I start
Oh,
blowing,
yeah, you lighten up.
and
Everybody
what do you want to
loves.
do?
Well, you want to go out and grab them and play and interact.
And then
Yeah.
I said, whatever you can't figure out, I've seen it happen over and over again. They can sit down and figure it out. I
Mhm.
told a family this week that had another family that had a disruption. And I told them to take their children, young children, sit on the floor, nothing there, put the dog away, can't bother them.
Right.
Sit down, have bubbles, have a crayon, piece of paper, font, it's just simple. And I said, and then have them, you know what, draw their experience of the week or whatever that was, the argument,
Mhm. Yeah.
whatever that is. And then I said, ask them each just to share a feeling that they had. And then, it's begin to open up and you talk about things and just listen. The
Mhm.
parents listen as well as doing it. And I said, but at the end, make sure you have the bubbles, or you make sure you have something, and have them each share something they're grateful for their family. And the second one was something they're grateful for, in their lives, and a gratitude.
Yeah.
Always gratitude. It's like sharing love and gratitude. It changes the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are spiritually,
Yeah.
is that, but you cannot give it to someone else until you have it in here.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I have to balance myself before I can go and give it away to the world. I've learned that it's like I have to do it first, and then my words become more powerful. The
Right.
same way here, whether that's saying a prayer, I say a lot of prayers. Angels are big for me.
Mhm.
I remember in childhood, we were told in the Catholic school to name our angel, and my archangel, I called it, it was really weird. I called it a friendly, you're my friend. You're my, it's like I don't know. I didn't even understand it, but I knew I needed something in that force,
Mhm.
and I knew I had a lot of jealousies and things like that, but humility was my word.
Oh.
I didn't understand then that humility wasn't about out there. I needed to practice humility. I didn't get that lesson. Of course, I called
Yeah,
it humility.
yeah.
It's what I needed.
Mm.
But over the years, I can remember one time in middle school, I was on a you ride around the thing that goes
Ferris
around,
wheel?
the Ferris wheel, and I was scared to death. And I remember screaming, humility, I'm scared. I can remember,
Oh, that's
humility.
hilarious.
I remember that. And as an adult, I've also said the same thing. How
Mhm.
can I be humble and listen to somebody else instead of what Julie has to say, or how I want it, or whatever?
Right.
I needed the humility to stop and listen out here
Yeah.
first.
Well, I agree. I think that it's a great way to heal to get out of our stuff is to serve another. And really at the end of the day, I think that, and it comes with maturity to a degree as well, but I think that after a while, you've sort of accomplished your goals. You've hopefully, done what you came here to do in that respect. But at the end of the day, it all comes to giving back and, just being led, because, I don't have any goals really anymore, except to be present in love and, listen to the guidance of spirit. And where would you, the mantra from the course, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? And so it's just being willing to be led and to be generous and as kind as we can be. And with that, you can't go wrong. But it takes a long time to figure that out. So those of you that are younger, you may want to just you know, you don't have to go through the struggle as light, you know, we take
Light at
things
the end of the
way,
tunnel.
yeah, and we take things way too serious, you know? And what really matters is joy and connection and friendships and the simple things. And, you know, the rest of the stuff is nice, but it really doesn't matter. If you don't have the joy and the peace, the rest of it doesn't matter a bit.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
My mantra today is it's not happening to you, Julie.
Mm.
It's happening for you.
Yeah. Isn't that a great one?
Oh my
I love
goodness.
that.
You know, I can, when I look at that, if someone's doing something to me, there's no ground there for listening, hearing, reconciliation,
Mhm.
whatever. But when I can see this is happening for my good, even though it's painful and it hurts, but what's the lesson? What am I learning out of that so that that's what I can concentrate on changing? Because I can't change anyone else,
That's true.
you know, which has been some hard lessons, but it really works, you know. And when you say, I came to the mountains to listen, to learn to listen.
Mhm.
You know, I was by myself. It took time to build friends, especially, you know, when Namaste closed and I was so safe in the community. And then, you know, I got to put myself out there. I've got to keep learning and growing and inviting friends and things like that. And I've learned so many lessons around that today. You be a friend first, and then a friendship will develop. It may take
Right.
time and whatever, but you know, in terms of that, I really want to mention a book, and it's one that the lessons you have taught me so much over with the Course in Miracles is radical forgiveness. And when I began to learn about, we all have our stories, and they're usually about what other people have done that have either hurt me, wounded me, or why I'm the way I am or whatever. But then when I started looking at, well, the story is, why did I attract it? Why is this happening for me, not to me? I began to look at that I can rewrite a new story every day.
Yeah.
And even though painful things have happened to me, that my goal was to find what's the lesson here, because I don't want to repeat it.
Right, exactly.
And so when I can get quiet and look at, well, what did I learn out of that? You know, and it was usually for me, because I'm a recovering anorexic and bulimic, and it's been a tough road in my life, but it's been my savior too. Because one of the things I had to learn with that was Louise Hay always teaching was, how do I look in the mirror and see beauty, not just beauty in the world, but my beauty?
Right.
Because the more I see my own beauty and can attach and have a relationship with it of love and forgiveness,
Yeah.
that's some of the things I've done, and welcome in the beauty that I know that I've learned from you, especially. I've always been perfect, but I live in an imperfect world, and I'm perfect as a human being. This is a hard one to get, but I'm also imperfect.
Yeah.
And perfect at the same time.
Exactly,
so how can
yeah.
you say something about that?
About being perfect and imperfect?
Yes.
Well, I think that well, let me back up. One thing that you had brought up, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, or for me, to me, for me, whatever, all of us. And I look at that as there's no, you know, everything is in divine order, and that we've made contracts. And some of our ugliest, hardest times have been our greatest teachers. And like you said, if we don't learn the lesson, we're going to continue to repeat. You're never going to escape the lesson. So it's going to keep showing its ugly face until we look at it. Colin Tipping, radical forgiveness. Did you ever come to see him when he was at the Palm Beach Center for Living?
No.
He was there several times.
He may have been, and I don't remember.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Great guy.
I may possibly have
super guy. So, you know, and so back to your statement about, well, one more thing. Carolyn Mace, another great book, Sacred Contracts is terrific.
Yes.
And it talks exactly about that, is that, you know, the people that really cause us the most pain may become in the greatest degree of love, because they're teaching us really big, hard lessons. And they're playing a role that's really big and hard. And actually, I was just talking about that today to a friend, and there's some people in my life, I don't want to be specific, but that are creating what seems to be chaos and in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a lot of feedback of how to handle it. And we got to be aggressive. We got to point out the faults. I'm like, no, that doesn't feel good anymore. It's just they're coming here to teach us all a lesson. And maybe we should begin to come from a place of, what is it we need to learn here? How can we support each other through this? So that's that miracle, that shift in perception. Now, that's the true miracle is now choosing. And boy, in the past, I would have been ready to go to battle in a minute. And damn it, I was going to be right. And I was going to point out everything. And now it's like, okay, how can we heal? And that's the new paradigm. So back to your statement, imperfect versus perfect. I think we are, the truth of who we are is divine, is love, is holy, is perfect, is God, really. All attributes and aspects of God. The imperfect part of us, I believe, are the false perceptions we have of ourselves and each other, the identities, with our careers and our relationships and our bank accounts and all of these external things, which at the end of time, your life don't mean this much. I mean, they really don't. All that really goes with us is the love we've given and received. So these imperfective aspects of our life, they're actually great teachers. They're there to teach us to where we still are blocking the light. And so what we do is back at the beginning of A Course in Miracles in the introduction, it says, the Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love or perfection, because that's beyond what can be taught, but it does aim at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So what happens is every moment we're choosing to when we see these little uglies pop up, or the fears or the judgments, or, don't see the beauty, invite the Holy Spirit in. Say, or your angels, tap into, a higher consciousness and just say, my little mind can't figure this out, but I know there is a power that can. So I think that the spiritual path is really not engaging, going down that rabbit hole of fear and judgment and gathering allies and coming to battle, but really having the strength and the willingness to recognize when we're, in judgment, when we're in fear, and invite the Holy Spirit in. And then we'll always be given exactly what we need. Always, never fails. Now, I fail many times in choosing soon enough, but I guess that too is in divine order, divine timing. It all is. But we're the only ones, like you mentioned earlier, we're looking always for someone or something to save us. Oh, well, if only this person would do this and this situation would change, then I'll be happy. You'll never be happy, trust me. And I know you know that as well, because it ain't out here. Maybe you'll have a minute or two of like, oh, that's great. But in the end, only love is real, and that's all that matters.
Oh my goodness. And bringing that up, I work with a lot of children and adults, and children get the lessons so quickly if they are able to learn them at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And we can teach them. It's the adults, because if we've had all these years of these blocks and stuff that, like you say, now you can transfer so much more quickly to it's all love. I got a story about what they did, but what's important here is nothing's going to work unless we can heal something anyway.
Right.
To believing in it and have faith in it, even though it may not happen right away. Well, what I teach people is very interesting. I've worked with an adult and a child in the last week that was in anxiety, fear, a lot of things like that. They were scared to death. Their parents were going to get divorced. They were scared to death, or the adults were scared to death, that businesses or money or financial, whatever it was. It doesn't matter what the story is, but I watched it where one woman was starting to inhale almost like she was going to have a heart attack. She said, I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack right now with everything that was coming in. And I said, stop, close your eyes. You have to immediately, if you will get them to close their eyes, children or adult, put their hand on their heart and usually they can't, I'd say, take a breath. They go, a very quick one. I said, no. here's what I want you to do. Kids get it very quickly.
Mhm.
I said, I want you to start up here, go all the way up and touch, the top of your head. And now breathe all the way out until it goes through the feet, down back into the earth, because that's where the roots are of safety, trust, foundations, because that's it. Underneath every plant is a root.
Right.
And, and if we don't water it, it
Mhm.
dies. If we
Right.
don't, so what I do is have them connect back and just say, just take a breath. And the one said, I don't feel like I'm in. I said, but you have, when we're thinking bad thoughts, when we're struggling, when we can't calm, we can't do this, we see all we only can see the negative or something
Right.
happening. It's, I say, stop, come back in your heart, come back in your body.
Right.
Because the body only knows love, safety, whatever. It's like, or I tell them to laugh. We're going to laugh. And I said, and you can even laugh with anger. Doesn't matter, because the body does not know the difference between synthetic laughter and real laughter.
Mhm.
So if I can get an adult or a child to just laugh angrily, and all of a sudden they get to where it's like you see the insanity or something
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
But if you can come back, because the light is not out here. The sun may be out there, the moon may be out there, light may be out there, but no, you see it first. You have to see it in here first, in the body, in the heart. You have to have it inside to recognize it. And if I can just bring them quickly down here so that they can get calm again, then we can talk about or find something to do or see a connection that they can't see,
Right.
in the moment. And that's myself too. Why did I come to the mountains? It was difficult for me in Florida, for 2 offices, children, grandchildren, everything, everything that was there. I had to be the one at 72. I'd always wanted to come back here. I was born in the mountains, came to camp up here. The happiest days of my life were in Blowing Rock, North Carolina,
Mhm.
at camp, to safety. I felt so good there as a
Yeah.
kid. And so for me, it was coming back to whatever this represents to me as a kid, adolescent, going to camp. And then I had to learn how to walk by myself. If I had someone to go out and walk, that was great. But if there wasn't anybody, man, to say, Julie, you don't have to have somebody.
Mhm.
You need to go up and do that trail by yourself. Those steps were not
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
To be with this head that would be frustrated or wanting someone to be with me or in life to fix things, like you said,
Yeah. Yeah.
but to be with my soul part.
Yeah.
But it's also what restored me.
Yeah.
It's also what
Absolutely.
taught me I'm never alone. I may feel alone, but there's connection everywhere
Yeah.
as long as I'm connected in here. And I can get myself back there, put a lamp on, put a light a candle in my house does
Right.
something amazing.
Sure, it does.
To have that glowing thing in the house. I love light, because now I understand the shadow, the darkness. And I remember being told one time by a therapist that said to me when I was in a very dark place, and she said, Julie, you ever been in a diamond mine? And I said, no. Have you ever been in a cave? And I said, well, I used to go in North Carolina as a kid and go ruby mining or whatever. And I've taken my grandchildren and everything. She said, well, when you first see or you go on a diamond mine, do you see diamonds that are those beautiful things flashing? No. And most of us would not find the diamonds in a diamond mine. It takes a different kind of an eye to recognize that it's a diamond, because it has to be polished,
Right.
has to be cut, so
Right.
many different things. So now I love to go out ruby, just mining, and finding little stones of whatever, going through that sand and trying to find the dirt, and just a little piece of some kind of a crystal or whatever.
Right.
That has taught me you have to search in the darkness. And sometimes we have to be in the darkness, and then we have to polish ourselves to see the gifts out of the tough times. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what North Carolina has given me. And namaste. I said when I got up there, I needed 2 things to move at 72. I needed a spiritual home, and I needed to develop love, which I thought was out there at first. Now I know it was loving myself to be able to give back again, even more powerfully to the world. So that's what it is up here to me. And namaste. And then I got a call that says, well, you know who's in North Carolina? I said, no. Another minister said to me, he said, Charlotte McGinnis. Charlotte. I said, oh my goodness, I'm coming home. And I want to thank you for that today, because namaste gave me the home that I needed in the beginning. And you were at the core of that, lady. And don't ever forget it, that we were meant to come together.
Amen.
And,
Yes.
and I feel we're partnering in life.
Yes, absolutely.
Every day.
Every day. Exactly. Well, and interestingly enough, the Namaste Center, well, the Palm Beach Center for Living, I've had started two centers, the Palm Beach Center for Living and then the Namaste Center. And both of those were thriving. And at 11 years, they both closed for whatever reason. And I think that, a lot of people might see that, and I say this as a teaching moment, might see that as a failure, but it had served its purpose. And, whatever needed to be with that, it was done, and even I think sometimes we try to force things and keep things going, relationships that maybe aren't healthy. And it doesn't mean they're good, bad, or whatever. It just means we have to recognize that we have to let go sometimes to move forward. And I am excited that we're having our Namaste reunion on Sunday.
Oh.
And there's so far, I think we got 30 some odd people coming, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I want to thank Joe for putting that together for us. And so it's great. So the community's getting together and in a different way. But I think what's going to come of that is people are going to be like, okay, how can we get together again? So we don't have to be worried about any structure, form, paying bills, this or that, just be together in love and friendship.
Well, I think that you and I are an example of that, Nell. We've come together, then we separate through our lives. We always seem to come back. And the interesting thing is, I knew, even though Namaste was closing, I knew the friendship would continue, and the mentoring,
Mm-hmm.
the learning and growing with you, and vice versa with both of us. And Ellen,
Yes,
she's taught me so much in life about the physical aspects of healing and love. She is like
an earth angel,
a huge earth angel of love.
She is.
And we are too. We just do it in a different way. I mean, I'm a hard therapist. I have a daughter who's a therapist, but I call her the love therapist. I call me the hard ass, because sometimes, I have to be hard, and people don't always like it. But I know that when I'm spiritually connected, that I'm saying what I need to say in the moment. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. There are a lot of things I like to go back and change, but I know in my heart and soul, I'm being led by God within, no matter whatever I'm saying. And I know when I'm connected, and I know when I'm disconnected today.
Yes.
And
isn't that a good feeling?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because.
And I know I need to be very connected today. And I think that was one of the missing pieces in Florida. Not that I wasn't, but it was a different time, 2 offices, families still raising and stuff. But up here, I've learned that before I work with people, couples, children, really doesn't matter. I need to get spiritually grounded.
Right.
For whatever comes up. And so that who I am in that is the light, not trying to force something or have something, but just be there as a lover and a teacher and hope.
Amen. Well, and we got lots of good adventures ahead of us. And, I just want to thank you for joining me today. And you are definitely a treasure in my life. And I can't thank you enough for everything. And lots of fun stuff to come. And thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been great to see all those names pop up, some from the past, and just share this with your friends, pass it along, and anybody who's around or wants to come up Sunday for our Namaste reunion, there's still space left, and we'd love to have you. So in the meantime, any closing comments?
Yeah. The one thing I said, as I mentioned my daughter, I really want to say that I am graced. I had difficulties creating intimacy, close things in my relationships. I was married twice to two really beautiful men. And I had a lot of lessons in those relationships to learn. But I want to say that I am surrounded by two sons who each give me different things in my life, different challenges, different opportunities to love and grow. But I can say that when my children are needed together, they come together. They all had to come up, they thought I was going to die at one point, and they all flew in and we were all here together. And I want to thank my children for loving me, all of them, my two sons and my daughter, for not only being there to allow me to be imperfect and to grow, because there were times, things I know that I could have done differently, but thank you for being with me through my whole life, my lessons, my growth, and my love. And thank you again to you, Charlotte, because you have been such an outstanding light for me of acceptance and allowed me to grow. And I encourage everybody out there, it's like learn how to love yourself so much more deeply. And you do that by looking in the mirror yourself.
That's right.
Louise Hay really had a blessing for all of us until you become one with the woman in the mirror, the man in the mirror, the man in the glass, the man. It's like, and learn how to love fiercely to that oneness of who you are, then you can be one with the world.
Amen. Amen. And just a little, if anyone, Louise Hay rocks. I mean, her teachings were simple and effective and powerful affirmation work. For every physical manifestation, sickness, for example, there's a spiritual solution to it. And I found I was having trouble sleeping a couple of weeks ago, and I was going through YouTube looking for meditations, and there's actually Louise reading her affirmations. Now she's not on the planet anymore, but it really was wonderful. So you look on YouTube if you have trouble sleeping. It was very peaceful, and I woke up the next morning to her waking me up. So it was really beautiful. So yeah, there's.
Thank you to everybody that tuned in today.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be possible without you.
Indeed.
And Charlotte has created that, and she continues to create a way that we can stay close even though we may be far away. And sometimes friendships, we don't see people, that often, but this is the month that I was taught by another minister. To be this month for 30 days practicing being an influence in the world. And I didn't know what that meant. I had to really think about it and pray about it and read about it. But one of the exercises we have for the month is every day to call someone. It can be from our past, our present, or whatever, and thank them for who they are, and tell them something you're grateful for them. And I have forgot it a couple of days, but then I felt something wasn't right. And then I started the practice again. We can fail and stop, but we get back on the train again. That has been incredible to me. And these are some people I've called I haven't seen in 30 years.
Yeah.
But they did make an indelible mark in my life somewhere. So, and even if they're dead, I thank my grandmother. Went to the end of myself and took a walk, and I saw all she gave me and my mother gave me. So it can be people in our past
Absolutely.
that we thank in the present.
Yeah.
So
whether they're still in form or not. Absolutely.
it's been fabulous to me.
And I was just speaking to my hairdresser this afternoon about the beauty of technology. And, a lot of people say, oh, Zoom's so impersonal. And yes, I think we all would like that person-to-person connection, physical, but really just something as a reminder. What a blessing. Look at everybody from all over the place here. California just popped up, Florida, New York. We've had people from everywhere, and so this is such a blessing.
Oh,
and it doesn't really cost anything. It's just pennies really to do this. And I was saying that just 10, 15 years ago, it was expensive to do this. Very expensive, prohibitive. So this is a blessing. It's a great way to connect. And thank you all for tuning in. And
thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And see you next week. Next week's
Love you,
guest.
everybody. Namaste.
Yeah, namaste. And next week's guest is one of my students in the ministry, Reverend Sandy Hawthorne. She is an awesome being, and She lives in Puerto Rico, and she has an amazing background. One of the most balanced, integrated people you'll ever meet. Beautiful, beautiful inside and out. Has a real mission. She just retired, and can't wait to share her with you. So see everybody next week. Blessings and namaste. Julie, you rock.
You too.
Yeah, namaste, everybody. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.